I nanny a baby boy for several days a week for a young woman who is a Marine Corps analyst. She's the one who hired me. She pays me each week, she drops the baby off, and picks him up. I've only met the dad once, before the events of the post, and I didn't like him. He seemed very uninterested in his son and just very detached, but the boy's mom told me to let the dad pick him up, so I did what she told me. She also told me back when she hired me that she and the dad broke up shortly after the baby was born. She has primary custody and full legal custody. I didn't pry into the whys and whats. Not my business. Baby is Mason, mom is Mandy, dad is Tyler, and I am me. The incident. Day before yesterday, when Mandy was picking Mason up, she told me that Tyler would be picking Mason up the next afternoon. I said okay. Yesterday morning when she dropped Mason off, she told me that if Tyler shows up, that Mason is not to leave with him. Tyler is to have no contact with Mason at all, and to call her if he shows up. I said okay and didn't pry. Not my business. I do as I'm told by the parent who pays me. Mandy was supposed to pick him up at noon. At 10:30, Tyler shows up at my house and says he wants to take Mason. I told him Mandy said no and to call her. I shut the door and lock it. Tyler starts banging on the door, yelling and cussing at me through it. Mason is terrified. I'm terrified. My cat is terrified. I called the cops, and then I called Mandy, who said she was coming. The cops show up and turns out Tyler has a bench warrant. That's when I learned that he had hidden a DUI from Mandy. He was 3 times the legal limit and positive for sugars. And Mandy had learned Tyler had driven impaired with the baby in the car, which is why she told me to keep Mason away from him. Tyler, because of his warrants, is arrested for those. He also got arrested because while waiting for the cops, he broke my storm door, kicked a dent into my brand new car, and smashed 2 of my 3 plastic deck chairs into pieces. Mandy and I talked to the cops, and then she left with Mason. I had a mess to clean up, so I got to it. My neighbor, Mike, comes out and asks me what all the commotion was about. I don't know Mike. We lived next door for several years, and we've spoken maybe twice. He wasn't polite either time, and once he even stole my recycling bin. But now this loser is sitting in my one unbroken chair, wanting me to spill the tea, like we're lifelong buddies. So I told him, Mike, stop being a nosy idiot and go home. And I was still very upset from everything earlier. Mike got up and left, calling me rude and a witch. My fiance told me I was rude to Mike as well and should apologize. Was I an idiot for telling this guy to stop being nosy? Not the idiot, but I'm concerned that the mom didn't bother to give you a heads up about what was going on. She put you and her baby in a dangerous situation without any warning. Just saying that the dad shouldn't take the baby wasn't nearly enough. You should have been warned not to open the door. You're lucky he didn't push his way past you. I feel like the mom knows Tyler's nature and knows he would have done something crazy. She should have stayed home and instead of leaving OP to deal with possible craziness. There is no way he hasn't done something like this before. You are not the idiot here. If Mike wanted to know what was going on, then Mike could have come over when the commotion was going on and perhaps given everyone a hand instead of hiding in his house like a little mouse. You are all idiots here. Maybe he was concerned for himself. If my neighbor had all this commotion outside, I'd be wondering if it was specific to my neighbor or just a random incident. And I'd also want to know if my neighbor was okay, needed help, etc. Sounds like you don't have that neighborly relationship with him though, which is fine. He's an idiot for seemingly wanting the tea without asking if you were okay and for calling you a witch. You're a mild one because you called him names and because you could have assured him that it wasn't random stuff that he needed to worry about. Glad you're okay. Yes, you are the idiot. You weren't to blame for the incident, but either way, a violent person ended up in your street because of your work and caused a huge scene. Your neighbors would have been alert to that going on and standing by to intervene if necessary for an extended time period. They also surely felt concerned for their safety too. Was it a random break-in? A boyfriend of yours they need to look out for? Or someone targeting the neighborhood? Expecting people to just ignore such things in a quiet neighborhood is ridiculous. I, 25 female, am pregnant. Yay! I'm not typically into stuff like pregnancy announcements, gender reveals, etc., but I have a good friend who's one of those crazy Etsy ladies and wanted to make me shirts. And I love supporting my friends, So I told her to make me a shirt to announce my pregnancy to my dad. She makes me a t-shirt that says, "Brand new Grandpa" for my dad, along with a little onesie that says, "I love Grandpa." I wrap it up really nicely, ship it to my dad, and tell him to FaceTime me and my husband when he opens it. Side note, my dad has a long-term girlfriend of about 10 years. Let's call her Anne. Anne and I never really clicked. We got into a pretty big fight when I was nearly adult. I had my last ever high school soccer game on the same weekend as their anniversary. I convinced my dad to reschedule their anniversary trip to watch my last game. He did it, and she went off on me for being selfish. We literally have not had more than a 3-word conversation ever since. Things aren't even tense between us anymore, but my dad just prefers to come visit me alone, so I never see her anyway. Anne has a daughter around my age and 3 grandkids that I barely know. I assume my dad is nice and kind to them, but overall indifferent because he's literally never talked about them to me, unless he's just listing people that were present at an outing or an event or something. Like, to the point where I know their names, but have no clue who's who. The only way I remember they exist is when I see him tagged in his girlfriend's Facebook pictures. They seem like sweet kids though, and I'm sure my dad likes them. Anyway, fast forward to the gift. My dad receives it, he opens it on FaceTime, is super confused at first, but then he gets teary-eyed and super excited. We talk about possible names. He tells me he's gonna have to get a safer car since he'll be picking the baby up all the time, that sort of thing. Super pleasant and wholesome. Then the next day, my dad calls me super awkwardly and says that Anne wants us her, my dad, my husband and I, to talk. We agree on a time to group FaceTime. On the call, she claims that it was petty of me to give my dad a shirt that says, "Brand new Grandpa," because her grandkids call him Grandpa and it'll make them feel bad. She says that my baby is his 4th grandchild, whether we like it or not. I honestly got super annoyed and angry. Hormones definitely weren't helping, and I told her that she was blowing this out of proportion, especially since her grandkids will have no clue this even happened unless she tells them. And then I brought up the fact that Anne and my dad aren't even married. To give fair background, my exact verbiage was, "You guys aren't even married." Bad, I know. The conversation went downhill and no progress was made, and it left off with her just hanging up. My dad just said, "He is staying out of it." LOL. So, am I the idiot? Side note, Anne's daughter is actually really cool, even though I haven't seen her in years. She just calls my dad by his first name and addresses him as her mom's boyfriend, apparently. So the only possible attachment seems to be between my dad and Anne's grandkids. Good Lord, you are not the idiot, especially if the shirt said, "Brand new Grandpa," because honestly, whether it's the 1st or the 14th, you still are grandpa to a new little one when the new little one arrives. And as you said, not married. Plus, his own daughter having a baby is definitely a different emotional experience to how his girlfriend's kids having babies felt. Together 10 years still isn't your kid having her first kid. Him treating the kids differently, if they don't know any better, would be a different scenario. But as pregnancy announcements go, the girlfriend is the one who is out of line here. You are not the idiot. You had an assumption and made a decision on it. What you believed, given timeline and evidence, is valid. Anne had feelings hurt and probably should have sucked it up. She didn't. The real idiot here is your dad. He's the connection between you two and clearly has his own feelings, opinions he isn't sharing. I bet you he immediately knew this upset Anne, but instead of addressing it or giving you a heads up, he let you two fight. He doesn't get to stay out of it. This is entirely his circus. If you feel you need to resolve this, you need to tell him to put his big boy pants on and make his feelings clear. You absolutely should have known that the very, very pointed phrasing on that shirt might cause offense. Since you got to pick, you could easily have picked something else. Given your evident dislike for Anne, it's hard to believe that the offense was totally accidental. Of course, it will be very exciting for him to have his first bio grandkid, but don't pretend you didn't know what you were doing here. You are all idiots here, at the very least. I'm 21 male, and my girlfriend is 20. We have dated over 2 years and lived together over 1. My girlfriend and I both work full-time. She's working from home right now. and I work outside the home. She works 8 to 5, and I work 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The past few months, we've had morning arguments because she says my routine wakes her up. I get up significantly earlier than her, about 3 hours before she wakes up, and she's not a morning person. Here are her issues. My dad works at the same place as me, so usually he will text me in the morning to make sure I'm awake. He will keep texting until I answer or eventually call. I keep my phone's volume all the way up so I can hear. A lot of the times, I don't answer within the first time, and by the second text, my girlfriend wakes up. Then there are my alarms. I snooze them a lot because I set them early, so when I wake up, I know I have some time to sleep still. These usually wake her up too. It's just part of my routine. She's a very light sleeper and has trouble going back to sleep once she is up. She gets so angry with me when this happens because she says she's exhausted. She's in college too, so she's up late doing homework usually, despite having to get up and work the next day as well. We've tried a few solutions, like her wearing headphones or an alarm clock that turns the light on, and it still doesn't help either of us. She thinks I'm an idiot because I just won't get up when my alarm goes off, or my dad texts me. She says that would solve all our issues and that I'm wrong for not doing this simple solution so she can get a bit of sleep. I say she needs to learn to live with my routine. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She slept with headphones on so you could snooze your alarm a few times? Literally sleeping with headphones. Also, you can have multiple alarms to wake you up. Can you imagine the discomfort of sleeping with headphones just so you can enjoy an extra couple 10 minutes of sleep? Just wake up when your alarm goes off and put your dad's text on silent if he's going to be texting so much in the morning. You are such an idiot. You've spoken about all your problems, some of which are legit. You haven't explained why they should be her problems, though, so I'll give you a hint. They aren't. You need to adapt your routine so that it's not hurting the people around you. That involves training yourself to get up with minimal alarms. Certainly not snoozing everything because you can't be asked to shift yourself. Imagine instead if she kept you up for 2.5 hours each night when you're trying to sleep, and instead of changing her habits, told you that you need to learn to live with her routine. You are so wrong. First of all, tell your dad to stop blowing up your phone all morning. You are an adult, and if you can't get up and to work without daddy holding your hand, that's a problem. Second, your desire to set the alarm earlier just so you can snooze it several times, essentially making a bunch of noise for no practical reason, it's actually not more important than her sleep. Grow up and learn to be a partner. My wife and I were expecting our first baby boy together. We've been married for 3 years, and my wife had one loss before, and we were really optimistic about this pregnancy. But the unexpected happened, and my wife had a stillbirth 2 weeks ago. It all happened so fast. We thought we planned for everything, but all that was unexpected. We were devastated, to say the least. We haven't gone out nor talked to anyone during these times. My mom and family visit to check on us. They bring meals, books, and they ask us how we're doing every day. Yesterday, my brother and his wife were visiting as well. His wife's pregnant with their second, and the moment they sat down, she started talking about her baby shower. My wife and I were getting uncomfortable as she went on about what they're going to do. My mom was sitting there when my brother's wife looked at me and my wife and asked my wife if she's willing to host her baby shower party. We were stunned. My wife almost cried while my brother just sat there, arms folded, and smiled at us. His wife said no one is available, so she asked my wife to do it and that it'll be nice for her to change the mood. I immediately lashed out on her and told her to stop because she was acting selfish and inconsiderate of what we're going through. She played dumb as I reminded her that we just lost our son and asked how she could possibly think it's okay to even ask something like that. My brother told me to calm down, but I lost my temper. My wife went inside the room and I kept telling them what an insensitive request my sister-in-law just made. Shockingly, no one thought it was a big deal. We got into an argument and my brother blew up when his wife started crying. I told them to leave, and my mom didn't like that I was yelling at them and lashing out. After they left, my mom reminded me that they were the ones sending meals and checking because I was out of line with how I behaved. I haven't talked to them. My dad says whatever happens, I shouldn't treat them like that, and that my anger was misplaced and I hurt the people around me, which was unacceptable. 2 things to point out. I'm not sure about them lacking intelligence because they're both intelligent enough to obtain a degree. My sister-in-law is a school secretary and my brother is a dentist. Also, I really thought my wife's family was worse because they wanted to have some of our baby's things to take with them before leaving town after they came. We're in low contact with them. You are not wrong. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you guys are getting okay. Secondly, literally reading that filled me with anger on your behalf. How insensitive and selfish can you be? Also, seriously, planning a baby shower will change your wife's mood? She's not upset because she banged her toe. She lost a baby. Your wife was almost crying and they still didn't stop? You were well justified. Mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. Yeah, and now you know why. Not out of love, but out of attempting to buy compliance through guilt. You don't owe them a single thing. There was no way any reasonably adjusted person would be that tone deaf. That was malicious, and I admire your restraint. You are not the idiot. Yeah, I felt awful after my mom told me that. She managed to make me feel as if I created this terrible situation. You are not the idiot. What? Was your brother and sister-in-law expecting that you guys would owe them a baby shower after they brought you meals and things? Did they not remember why they brought those meals? I would absolutely not apologize, except to tell them you're sorry they're so selfish and insensitive. Also, you don't usually have a baby shower for your second child, just the first. So they're not only selfish and insensitive, they're greedy too. I suffer from really bad hypnagogic hallucinations. If anyone here doesn't know what this is, it's basically where you create objects, sounds, physical feelings just before you fall asleep. I've dealt with it for as long as I can remember. Only thing you can really do about it is make sure you're not stressed. Take supplements, exercise, eat well. You get the idea. Well, my husband thinks it's funny to try and trigger this stuff. For example, saying things just before I sleep, and then claims he's not said it. But I know I can hear him giggle. I've confronted him about this so many times, but all he does is laugh and brush it off as harmless teasing. He will also touch me, and then when I swat the area, he'll say, "Oh, you're so sensitive." I told him clearly that I don't find this funny, and I already have enough trouble falling asleep as it is. I don't need the extra teasing. I warned him the other day that if he does anything like this again, I will be moving into our spare bedroom, and that's that. Well, I think he was testing the waters, because the last time he did this, he basically used his fingers in a crawling motion up my arm, like a spider I would feel. He knows my biggest issue is seeing spiders, and I essentially exploded and said I'm sick and tired of his childish behaviors and how he doesn't respect the fact that I have a genuine sleep disorder. He screamed back and called me an idiot and that I'm unnecessarily overreacting. But I stood my ground and left to go sleep in the spare bedroom and have been doing so for the last few nights. Now he's frustrated and asking if this means I want to get divorced since we have separate bedrooms. He's still telling me this is a wrong move on my part. Am I the idiot for moving into the spare bedroom? Not the idiot, but you're underreacting. You're with a man who is nasty to you because he finds it funny. Run. This. OP, you are not wrong. Your husband has gone way past teasing you. He has done the bully's move of doing things to hurt you on purpose and then saying it was just a joke when you were mad or upset. And then he has been gaslighting you, hurting you as a joke, and then saying your response is the problem? Divorce him. You deserve better. You are not the idiot. You have a marriage problem. The fact that he has zero respect for you is huge. And the fact that the next day, he didn't apologize with flowers and balloons and promises of not doing that again just shows how little you mean to him. You need couples therapy.